So, hi everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak today, and thanks to everyone for tuning in, particularly those of you who are coming to us in the middle of the night. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a postdoctoral researcher in the Belk Center for Community College Leadership and Research at North Carolina State University in the United States. But I am coming to you from the state of Georgia in the United States. One benefit of the virtual world is that that means I have a bit more flexibility about where I live. So I've been asked today to speak a bit about U.S. study abroad experiences, which may seem like a bit of an odd topic to be discussing in the middle of a pandemic when international mobility is significantly limited. However, in the field of international education, and I'll speak today especially to an audience of U.S. international educators and the people who research U.S. study abroad. I think what the pandemic has given us is the opportunity to reflect on our programs in a way that was difficult to do in the times before the pandemic when students were constantly coming and going from abroad. That movement really kept us really busy and kept our minds off of maybe some important issues in US study abroad. Um, to my mind, there are really three questions that I hope we're asking ourselves as a field right now. The first one is who participates in our study abroad programs, and our study abroad students reflective of our general campus population. If they're not, which is probably the case, what policies and practices can we implement to ensure greater access to education abroad opportunities for all students, but especially those who have been historically marginalized in our programs as we enter into the post-pandemic world? And recent work that I've conducted with Dr. Amy Stitch, who is an assistant professor at the University of Georgia, suggests that there are several things that we can do to increase access to study abroad opportunities. One is involving students' parents in the study abroad process. A second one is addressing specifically issues that historically underrepresented students might encounter while abroad. And one of the big ones there is issues around racism in the study abroad environment. Um, a third thing that we can do is to provide students with ample information about international travel and what it entails. Providing this kind of information serves to level the playing field for students who can't, for example, ask a family member or rely on past experience about what international travel is like. And doing these things can go a long way to open access to education abroad. A second question that I really hope we're asking ourselves is what are students learning from education abroad programs? Are they learning what we want them to learn? And how can we transform our programs so that students get the most out of their experiences? And while quite a bit of research has focused on students' outcomes from studying abroad, this empirical work, to my mind, really lacks a robust statistical design. And I'll speak now particularly to quantitative researchers. Often studies uh, don't involve a comparison group. So changes that we might see over time for study abroad students, for example, in things like global perspective taking, those changes might be due to study abroad, but it also might just be natural change that happens over time for all students. And even in research where a comparison group is used, I see that researchers often don't account for selection bias, meaning that study abroad participants are systematically different from non-participants even before they set foot on an airplane. In this case, we don't know if changes over the course of study abroad are due to actual experience or if it's due to these systematic differences that were already there before study abroad happened for those participants. And then the third question that I really hope we're asking ourselves is how do our programs impact other individuals involved in creating a successful study abroad program? And I'm specifically thinking about local communities that might be impacted when a study abroad program arrives to their geographic location. I am aware of very little work and none of it particularly empirical that addresses this question. I think it's an important question to ask in our future work. Our study abroad programs, if we've done our jobs correctly, impact outcomes for our students. And I've got just one more point and then I'll finish up. Um, but we must keep in mind that our programs also impact other individuals in and around where these program activities are taking place. I'm particularly concerned that these impacts are negative, whether that's environmentally or economically. And that is particularly worrisome when host communities are Black and Brown, as study abroad then contributes to this additional racial stratification in the world. So thank you so much for having me again today, and I look forward to your questions and comments in the Q&A section.